In the previous video, we specified a very simple basic behavior by importing sample messages. In this video, we will demonstrate basic debug capabilities of SV, as well as we will look into how to check progress on implementing these hands-on exercises automatically. In the previous videos, we talked just about SV project. But in fact, SV project is always enclosed in an SV solution, as you can see here. In the following few steps, we will import another special SV project with special services to check progress on our hands-on exercises automatically, as well as we will import a couple of agents to facilitate these new features. So let's start with importing these two special agents. We'll go to SV Designer, to the Agents Management, and here you can see you have a couple of options for managing agents. You can obviously edit agents one by one, add one, delete one, duplicate, or export one. Or you can export all the agents to a special file. That could be quite handy if you want to partially copy some setup on a certain SV server and bring it to another SV server to a different environment and there perhaps modify it a little bit. So the point is you can export as well as import agent settings, and this is exactly what we'll do now. We'll click import, and here in the downloaded training folder we'll select this training agents file. By the way, this agents export file is just a zipped XML file. Let's just select this file, and you can see you have these two agents available for import. In our case, we don't have these agents in our system yet, so I will just press OK, and these agents will get imported here. I press apply, and you can see the two agents are currently running. Let me press OK, and let's proceed with step number 11, where we add this pre-created SV project to our solution. So here, on this Projects tab, I'll right-click the solution root, click Add, Existing Project, and I select this virtualization project archive file that contains all the project files to import. When I switch back to the Virtualization Explorer, you can see in this new Training Services project, we have this checkup service and dashboard service. This checkup service is a special service that will call our portfolio suggestion service to verify it's functioning correctly. And this dashboard service is simply some sample web application that contains dashboard to show us the result of the checkup service. So when I double click this dashboard service, you will see its home page. You can always navigate to home page by double clicking the service like this. So the dashboard service is listening on this endpoint, and since it's a simple web application, let me open it in browser. So this is how the dashboard service looks like. Currently, we are still implementing this first hands-on exercise. And now is the time to check whether we implemented it correctly. I'll just click this point, and as you can see, it got green along with this OK status. In case there is an issue in your service, you will see an error along with a hint of how to fix it. You can see there's quite a lot of hands-on exercises ahead of us. We will use this dashboard to check our progress automatically. Now, to understand how these exercises work, you may be interested in how it all works in background. And that's also a good opportunity to show you some of the basic debugging features of SV. So firstly, notice that some 14 messages were simulated. 14 messages since the last simulation restart. That means 7 requests and 7 responses. These messages were sent from the checkup service. It's pretty unusual that one virtual service invokes the other, but in this series of training exercises, we don't have any real client application to invoke the virtual service, so we had to create these two. But what were the 14 messages? Why were these 14 messages important to check whether you correctly completed the first exercise? So Let's have a look. We can go to this service debugging section and switch on message logging, and we can repeat the same test by clicking this circle again. Now we can see 28 messages were simulated since the last simulation restart, 14 of them unique. When you go here and click Show Logged Messages, you will be actually able to see those messages. This is the first one. This is the last one. Here you can always see the payload, and also you can see the headers. This is the request side, this is the response side. So this is what the checkup service sent, and this is the response the portfolio suggestion service generated. If we move up, you can see it's first testing scenarios for hedging, then scenarios for speculation for risk level of 20, 50, and 80. So likely these 6 requests and responses make sure that the correct response is retrieved for the 6 imported request-response pairs. The last one is testing the default rule. Here, the checkup service changed one of these values and tested that the default response will be retrieved. If the checkup service tests with some input you don't understand, you can simply copy it out and use it here in your REST client. And you can investigate further what is happening if you invoke your virtual service with some particular request. So as I already mentioned, this symbol means that the data simulation accuracy decreased with this message. That's why it's not 100%, it's just 89%. I'm not totally sure what caused the mismatch, why none of these imported rows matched. If you want to find out exactly, we have a special feature for it called the simulation report. The simulation report can only be used together with message logging. When I switch it on and repeat the same test, then when I show the logged messages again, you can see this additional symbol, and if you click it, this will open a simulation report that pertains to simulation of that selected request and response pair. So this is exactly what the simulation algorithm was doing in order to generate that particular response. As you can see, the simulation algorithm proceeds in a couple of cycles. We will discuss this in more detail later. But what happened during all these 6 steps, especially in this step? Because in cycle 1, we expected the samples from documentation to match. But the checkup service sent some payload which caused mismatch in the data model. None of the rows matched. If you want to know why, you can just click here, because here is where you expected a match, but the rule didn't match. So you can ask why by clicking here and displaying the detail. And now, as you can see, it didn't match because purpose and risk level and name all had different values. These are the 6 rows, and there is a reason for each individual row why it didn't match. So you can see that the last row normally would match, but it had a different name. So let's have a look whether it's really the case. And here inside our REST client, let's test the very same payload that the checkup service used. So here, this name is likely the only thing that is different than it should be. So when I put there John, which is the name used in all these rows in the data model, then I hope that by pressing send, yeah, it matched now. So the reason why it didn't match was because of the name. If I return here Jimmy and press send, I will receive exactly the payload that we logged here. The message log along with the simulation report will help you identify why some of your rows in your data model didn't match. It will help you inspect the raw values and other details. We will describe the message log in more detail later, but what is very important to understand is that the message log can slow down your simulation quite a bit, especially when you have this simulation report on. So it's very important to keep message logging off during performance tests, because otherwise you can get gigabytes of logged messages in your database which you don't want. So use the service debugging section just for troubleshooting, just for debugging. Never have it switched on during performance tests. I will now switch simulation report as well as message logging off, and I will clear the storage to get rid of all the data we logged during our investigation.